I'm absolutely thrilled to share some absolutely massive UFC updates that Dana White revealed last night. Let me tell you, it was one wild evening that had the entire MMA community buzzing with excitement. So picture this, Dana White goes live on Instagram and tells everyone he's got some huge announcements coming after the Contender Series. The anticipation was just electric. The MMA community was practically holding their breath for 3 hours waiting for the news. But let me tell you, when Dana finally went live again, wow, it was absolutely worth every minute of that wait. Before we dive into all the incredible announcements, if you're enjoying this coverage, please hit that like button to support the channel. Now let's get into everything that happened last night. And trust me, there are some absolutely jaw-dropping developments you won't believe. Let's start with what might be the most shocking news of all. Ilia Topuria has decided to vacate his featherweight title and make the move up to lightweight. Now you might be wondering, why would Topuria give up his belt? Well, Dana White revealed that Ilia feels he's accomplished everything he can in the featherweight division, and honestly, his body just can't handle making that weight anymore.
So guys, I'm here filming The Ultimate Fighter right now. I'm going to make an announcement soon, as soon as I'm done filming Tough.
While the MMA...
Now this decision has definitely stirred up some controversy. Mike Bone from MMA Junkie disagrees with Ilia's take about doing everything he could at featherweight. He wrote, "Fair play to Ilia for allowing the division to move on and not holding on to the title, especially if he can no longer make the weight safely. Definitely did not do all he can at 145 though, and this decision removes him from any featherweight GOAT discussions in my opinion." Here's where it gets really interesting. Dana mentioned they're working on Ilia's next fight, and while Islam Makhachev recently said in an interview with Match TV that he wasn't open to fighting Topuria until he proved himself, Ariel Helwani's sources are telling a completely different story. According to Ariel, the plan is actually for Makhachev versus Topuria later this year, possibly during International Fight Week. Can you imagine how explosive that fight would be?
Wow, a lot to unpack. Ilia Topuria moving up to lightweight. I personally think him versus Islam Makhachev is the fight you've got to make next. Like, there's not a whole lot of challengers right now that are really intriguing in this division. I think you put Ilia in a title fight right away. Two of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the sport. And also very interesting that Ilia is, vacating the championship. Feels like he doesn't have much left to do in that division, according to Dana White, and he's stepping aside for a new champion.
Speaking of Makhachev, his manager Rizvan Magomedov has some pretty strong opinions about what Topuria should do next. He wants to see Ilia take on either Dustin Poirier or Charles Oliveira first. His exact words were, "Topuria versus Dustin Charles contender, fight to prove he's legit lightweight so we don't have to defeat another small featherweight. We need a big fight that makes sense for everyone. We already gave chances to featherweight champ that was reigning for a long time." Ilia himself hasn't said much about vacating his belt, but he did post this incredibly meaningful picture on Instagram with the song and caption, "Not like us." You can just feel the confidence radiating from him. Now, hold on to your seats because Dana White dropped another bombshell. A massive main event announcement for UFC 314.
As soon as the first punch is thrown in this fight, the title is vacated. Volkanovski versus Lopez, headlining a bad stat card. 52 career wins between the two of them, and this should be a fun one.
Alexander Volkanovski wasted no time responding to this news on his YouTube channel, and let me tell you, he had some pretty strong words for Diego Lopez.
Obviously a dangerous dude, bit of a different matchup to Ilia. Obviously both dangerous fighters, so I'm really looking forward to this one, very excited, but I'm feeling great and I'm only going to get better from here, so that's a scary thing, especially for Lopez. I think Lopez is in for a very, very hard fight. He's a gamer, he's a great dude, I got a lot of respect for him, a very nice fella. I'm sure he's expecting to go out there and win the belt. I'm sorry mate, that ain't happening. Good on you for being in this position. Happy you're getting the opportunity to fight for the belt. I'm still here, you ain't having it. Sorry mate.
Diego Lopez fired back on social media with some powerful words of his own. "I've worked like no one else in recent years. I've accepted challenges and dares that the UFC has put in front of me. I have said yes in every situation, even when it wasn't favorable for me. In less than 2 years within the UFC, I will have my opportunity for the title. I will not fail. Dream, believe, and make it happen." And new. But wait, there's more. The co-main event for UFC 314 in Miami is going to be absolutely electric. Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett in a 5-round war. These two have been teasing this fight for weeks with palm tree emojis on social media, and now it's finally official. I can't wait to see how this one plays out. Speaking of Chandler, he had quite the reaction to the Paddy fight announcement this morning on X.
In this sport, things move very fast. I was on vacation last week, got a call. "What do you think about fighting Paddy Pimblett in April?" And I said, "Well, Hunter, April's only 8 weeks away. I like to put down about 4 weeks of training before I go into an 8-week camp. Let me think about it. Next day, flew to Vegas, sat down with him in his office. We talked through everything. We made the decision. Fighting Paddy Pimblett, Miami, April 12th. Because a imperfect plan implemented now is better than a perfect plan implemented months from now. There's a lot of stuff going on with the division. It was a big summer for the lightweight division. After the last fight, one of the most disappointing losses of my career, I wanted to get right back on the horse, get right back in the octagon. So I like the matchup, love the matchup actually. I respect Paddy. I think Paddy's a skilled fighter. I think he's still got a bright future, but I think he's going to run into a buzzsaw named Michael Chandler on April 12th. As always, I will be the most entertaining guy that steps inside the octagon that night. I will have everybody on their feet. I will have everybody on the edge of their seat, going out there with one goal in mind. That's to separate our opponent from consciousness. We head into training camp today, next 8 weeks. God bless. See you at the top.
Now here's another exciting announcement that caught everyone by surprise. Dana White revealed that Yair Rodriguez will be taking on the UFC's newest recruit, Patricio Pitbull, at UFC 314.
Number 4 ranked, Yair Rodriguez. And my boys are telling me there's been some talk out on the internet about this one. Patricio Pitbull at featherweight. For those of you who don't know, Pitbull is a former 2-division champion in another organization. Recently, he has publicly asked for his release, and now we get to see him compete against the best in the world. When he left the organization, he was the featherweight champion, so basically the same thing happens. When the first punch is thrown in this fight, he's no longer their champion.
This whole situation with Pitbull is fascinating because earlier this week, MMA Planet reported that he had signed with the UFC after being released from the At First. It seemed there was some miscommunication between MMA Planet's owner and Pitbull's manager, and many respected reporters were denying the news. MMA Planet faced quite a bit of criticism online for what seemed like misinformation, and they quickly apologized for what appeared to be an honest mistake. But here's the twist. It turned out to be true after all. Pitbull himself cleared the air about what happened, saying, "Hello, my interview with MMA Planet, who's a very serious journalist, happened 11 days ago, and there really was a miscommunication. The official UFC offer, as an odd coincidence, only came a couple of hours ago. There were a lot of moving pieces, and I'll talk about it all soon. It's time to conquer a new crown. UFC featherweights, your future king has arrived. Yuri, what an incredible turn of events. Moving on to UFC 315, we've got a major shakeup that nobody saw coming. Dana White announced that Belal Muhammad will be fighting Jack Della Maddalena in the main event. Now I know
Get to UFC 315 on May 10th, live from the Bell Center in Montreal, Canada. The main event, Belal Muhammad, his first title defense against number 4 ranked Jack Della Maddalena. We tried multiple times to put together the Belal Shavkat Rakhmonov fight, but Rakhmonov is injured. So as soon as Rakhmonov's healthy again, we'll get him back in there, and obviously he'll probably be first in line, the Jack Della versus Belal fight. Belal hasn't lost in 11 fights. Jack's on a 17-fight win streak with all 8 of those wins coming by first round knockout or submission. He's another guy who's earned like 5 performance bonuses in 6 fights. These guys have a combined 28 fight unbeaten streak that goes back over 6 years.
Those of you know, many of our daily viewers might be confused because Leon Edwards versus JDM was supposed to be the main event for the UFC London card. But as Dana explained, Shavkat is injured, so they had to switch things up. Leon Edwards will now face Sean Brady as the main event in London. After Dana's livestream, Shavkat Rakhmonov addressed the situation on social media. Big thanks to the UFC for offering me the shot at the belt first. Unfortunately, due to injury, I won't be ready for May. I'll be facing the winner later this year. Belal Muhammad couldn't resist commenting on the situation with his trademark humor, saying Canelo hands are activated. He even took a playful jab at Leon Edwards, writing, "Dang, I stole Leon's belt and his opponent." Love him or hate him, you've got to admit that was pretty funny. However, not everyone was happy with how the UFC handled the situation. Some fans were particularly upset that Ian Gary wasn't given the title shot, with one member of the MMA community expressing their frustration. Buckley was right there for the title fight, but instead y'all give JDM a title shot who has worst wins, barely fights, and was already scheduled for a fight, and they reward Sean Brady by giving him the number 1 guy? I literally can't believe this. Buckley's response to these comments was surprisingly calm. All good fam, UFC cooking right now, and we know who's on the menu. In more exciting news for UFC 315 in Montreal, Dana White announced that Valentina Shevchenko will defend her flyweight title against the undefeated Manon Fiorot, who's currently riding an impressive 7-0 streak in the UFC. Also, the Gilbert Burns vs. Michael Morales fight, which was originally planned for UFC 314, is being moved to UFC 315 according to the reliable Marcel Dorf. What an absolutely incredible night of announcements. From Ilia vacating his belt to Patricio Pitbull joining the UFC, it's been one of the most news-packed evenings we've seen in a long time. But wait, there's even more to cover. Let's talk about the recent controversy surrounding Dricus du Plessis after defending his middleweight title twice, first winning it from Sean Strickland at UFC 297, then successfully defending against Israel Adesanya, and most recently erasing any doubts in his rematch with Strickland at UFC 312. You'd think his resume would be bulletproof, but Brendan Allen sees things differently.
You look at his resume on paper, man, this guy's a stud. But like, if you really look at it and watch the fights, he fights these guys that have such a great name, but look at the timeline that he fights them. He's fighting them like they're not really motivated or on their way out, or just Father Time's getting them. For instance, you see Izzy on someone's resume and you're like, you think of the Izzy at his top and you're like, wow, he beat this guy. And it's like, you watch the fight and you're like, this ain't the Izzy that fought like Paulo Costa or anything like that. Like, this ain't the same guy. I just think he gets them at the best times, the best names at the best.
Next time we see DDP in the Octagon, he's expected to face Khamzat Chimaev, who's coming off an absolutely dominant victory over Robert Whittaker. These two have already started trading shots on social media, and du Plessis seemed very interested in the matchup during his post-fight press conference, saying he wants to fight Khamzat next before moving up to challenge Alex Pereira. If DDP manages to add Chimaev's name to his list of victories, it might make Allen's criticism lose some of its sting. In other news, Merab Dvalishvili has received an interesting warning from a fellow UFC fighter. Between his wins leading up to the title fight with Aljamain Sterling and his recent victory over Umar Nurmagomedov, Merab has proven to be an absolute puzzle for his opponents. Fighters with striking advantages like Sterling can't execute their game plans because of his relentless grappling, while well-rounded fighters like Nurmagomedov struggle to keep up with his incredible pace and pressure. However, UFC Seattle headliner Song Yadong sees a potential weakness. During media day, he confidently stated, "He got rocked, so I believe if I fight him, I can knock him to sleep." Merab has crazy cardio. It was crazy. I think a big reason why Umar lost the fight was because of his hands. He hurt his hands, he could not grapple, but it is what it is. While Merab has never been knocked out, we did see him get rocked in his 2021 fight with Marlon Moraes. But as many opponents would tell you, the hardest part about fighting Merab is finding an opportunity to land clean shots through his constant pressure. Speaking of Song Yadong, he shared something really special on social media ahead of his fight with Henry Cejudo this weekend. He posted a picture of himself selling souvenirs outside the Olympic Arena in Beijing back in 2008, right when Henry Cejudo won his gold medal. Talk about destiny! Finally, let's address the ongoing situation between Sean Strickland and Eric Nicksick. Yesterday, Justin James, a coach at Extreme Couture, claimed that Nicksick only went on Ariel Helwani's show to vent about Strickland because of a money dispute. James said Nicksick sent a 5-paragraph text message that Strickland essentially ignored. However, Strickland quickly responded, stating, "This is completely false," before taking a shot at James, adding, "Bro, all these washing up fighters doing podcasts, LMAO." The whole situation is pretty confusing because James isn't just some random person. He's a coach at Extreme Couture, which gives his claims some weight. Would he really risk his position at the gym by making false claims about the head coach? Could it be that the situation was real initially but has since been resolved? We'll have to wait and see what Eric Nicksick has to say about all this. That's all for today's updates. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay up to date with all the latest MMA news. And speaking of updates, check out this crazy moment when Arman Tsarukyan accidentally sent his coach flying backwards and falling outside the octagon during training.